Watching an interview last night on one of the news channels, and I don't watch the news like I used to. I've shared that before. The news was so negative and so biased and so narrowband that it lost its impact. But every once in a while, I'll flip around and I'll find an interesting interview. And it was an interview with a young college student who was trying to explain their radicalism, what they view, how they view the world, progressivism, whatever you want to call it. And this young lady was very articulate, seemed to be fairly intelligent. But when she was asked questions about context, historical bias, historical frameworks, she went blank. She couldn't answer questions on a macro level. She could answer questions in terms of how she felt, her felt emotions, her felt ideas, but she couldn't answer questions that dealt with the broader context of what she might be talking about, the ideology, the precept, or whatever. And as I was watching this interview, I'm thinking to myself, as an educator, that was one of the things I worked really, really hard to engender in students. And that is an objective context, a broader view, come from macro to micro. You can start with micro, come back out to macro, look at the bigger picture, and then see if it doesn't change your micro perspective, your very specific focus. And most of the time when students did that, they would find themselves not simply well-informed, but having the ability to think. And as I was watching this interview, I thought, well, where were the teachers? Where was the educational process for this young lady? She's I think a junior at one of the Ivy League schools. She obviously had the ability to at least do well on standardized tests to get into that kind of school. But where was her ability to think critically? And I realized that obviously many on the right side of the political spectrum believe that we indoctrinate rather than educate students. I wouldn't disagree with that. I don't know that that's true in every situation, but I will say that over the years, in both K through 12 as well as university level education, there's definitely loss of objectivity, a loss of critical thinking. And that kind of narrow band, this is just how I feel, which is oftentimes portrayed as my truth, quote unquote, my truth. It disables the ability for someone to move forward and actually contribute to society and it's the classic Santayana, if you neglect the past, you're doomed to repeat it. And I see this happening more and more, and it concerns me. And so the question I would say for those who have children, begin developing objectivity, begin developing, let's look at the other side. Let's look at both sides. Let's do our research, do the legwork, so that we can create environments where people can stop and think, well, maybe I'm not seeing this correctly. I do that all the time. In fact, I appreciate it when people challenge my perspective so that it stops me from moving forward into a very narrow band biased perspective. There was plenty of opportunity for